When was the most satisfying time you caught someone in a lie? In 5th grade, the class was doing a math packet. I'd finished the first page and half of the second, and started talking to my friend. The girl next to me yelled at me to do my work, and when I looked over at her paper, I discovered she'd put the exact same answers as me and had finished the same amount of problems as me, so I ran a little experiment. The next packet we were given, I answered all but answers that were not even close to correct and looked over at her paper. Sure enough, she'd answered all of my but answers and turned her packet in, and I then changed all my answers to the correct ones and turned mine in. She got 0%, I got 98%. I don't know why this is the most satisfying, considering I was 10 and it's fairly insignificant. I'll spare the details, but my girlfriend of 4 years randomly broke up with me one night after a football game. The next day when she wasn't home, I went through her MacBook, where all of her texts were, and discovered she had been cheating on me for the last 3 months. I printed out the texts, and when she came home the following day, I told her I wanted to talk about things. She said she just didn't feel the emotion anymore, and that it had nothing to do with me, it was all her and she just needed time to herself for a while. Then I said, "Are you sure?" and handed her the texts. She called me an asshole and stormed out. I guess I got the last laugh. She ended up getting multiple STDs, flunking out, and from what I can discern of her social media, just drinks and goes clubbing 24/7. Still though, it's hard not to feel those 4 years wasted. It's not really satisfying, more so annoying. I have friends who straight up lie or say shit that isn't even true in any way. Too in specific. My mom killed my dad and she left, so now the cops are looking for her. We're moving because my parents are splitting. My boss stole money from me. And the best ones were when she would talk about how her mom was suffocating her and acting bipolar-ish. She would come over and say things like, "I told Mom that I was done with her hit, that I was going to do _ because I'm 18 and I can." It was obvious she never told her mother off, nor did her mother actually act the way she said she did. She would talk about telling people off when she never really did. It's just frustrating. Why lie? Such an obvious lie, why? Another friend once told me she quit work. Straight up quit, and wanted me to help her find another job. I said okay and asked around and found a good option. Next day she's on schedule. When I asked why she's back, she asks me what I mean and refused to acknowledge she ever said she quit. Over text. A coworker tried to pass off blame onto my entire team after he ducked up. For reference, we received notification of something that required an institutional response. We did not meet the deadline because a certain someone did not make anyone aware of it. Anyway, he was convinced he was more important than he really was, so he called a meeting and invited management, as well as 2 administrators. His goal was to flex and yell at people, his favorite activity at work. The administrator began questioning him, and it was clear that she was zeroing in on something. "Administrator, why was this late?" "Adam, the dickhead, they didn't get it done. Completely unqualified people. They should be held accountable." "Admin, who was notified?" "Adam, they knew. They just didn't do it on time." "Admin, yeah, but how did they eventually become aware?" "Adam, Admin, how did we become aware that this was due?" "Adam, they were made aware by outside institution." "Admin, and how were they made aware?" "Adam, Admin, did we get a letter?" "Adam, no, I didn't receive a letter until afterwards." "Admin, really? Because we have your signature on it. It was certified. And dated. You told them 3 weeks after receiving it." Adam, turns bright red. "Admin, Adam, turns redder." "Admin, Adam, sing-songing like your mother would." Adam, starts to sweat and stutters his words. "Admin, lets out a smile." Adam, in front of a room full of people. Adam is a doctor now. I started a new job and my duties were pretty easy and straightforward. On my fourth day there my supervisor, loudly, accused me of making a very boneheaded mistake, a mistake I was 100% certain I did not make. Nevertheless, I started double-checking everything I did to ensure there were no mistakes on my end. Then he began accusing me of making even more mistakes and started telling other co-workers how inept I was. I was completely baffled. Then a few months in I was doing some routine work with the company software and I found a series of gigantic errors that were costing this company a lot of money. At that point it all clicked. He'd made a total mess of the data and was throwing me under the bus as he tried, and failed, to fix it without anyone finding out. I went to his office, closed the door, and politely told him that I found these errors and made a note of them, but I wasn't sharing the information with him until he knocked it the hell off and stopped trying to scapegoat and gaslight me. Then I went back to work. I made him kiss my base for over a month before I gave him the list of errors. I was in a highly toxic relationship with this guy on and off for about 4 years. This happened towards the end, as I was just over it all. He could tell that I was basically done dealing with his drama and he told me that he had been diagnosed with testicular cancer. I asked him some questions about what doctors he went to and what his parents thought. To which he replied that he had gone to his appointments alone and his parents didn't know. We were in our early 20s at this point and he still lived with his parents. This flew up red flags, since I knew him to be manipulative and it wasn't below him to guilt me into staying. I told him he should really tell his mom if it was as serious as he claimed it to be and he outright refused. I was close with his mom still and felt that it was wrong, if he was practically dying, that she was totally unaware. So I messaged her and told her what was going on. She was totally confused, since she said he hadn't had any appointments, he also had no car without her, and he was absolutely pissed. He stopped talking to me and went on to have a kid with some other poor girl. While it was satisfying, it had some pretty terrible ramifications. I caught an ex cheating and how I did it was kinda unique. I was attending college at the time and when I was done class I'd log on to AIM to message my girlfriend to send a ride my way. She used my computer while I was gone at class. I logged in one day and saw she was using my AIM account to send SMS messages to one of my supposed friends. She was talking about how she was falling for him and how they were gonna hook up the next time we hung out, they'd ditch me and go for a drive. I logged out and back in again, hoping that the "you're signed in 2 places" pop-up would show up and she'd know I was watching. She must have dismissed the initial one by accident. I got home and checked AIM, the messages she had sent were deleted. My friend's whole SMS contact number was removed. I asked her if she'd been doing anything interesting while I was at school and she said she was drawing the whole time. I asked to see what she drew but she said she deleted it. I then asked if she chatted with anyone, but said no. I mentioned I saw her conversation and hoo boy. Big mistake. I was spying on her and the worst person ever, apparently. A friend of mine is convinced she intended for me to see that and he might be onto something. They're still together and have a kid now, something neither of them really wanted, but they've made the best of it. I'm also much happier where I am, so I guess it worked out for everyone. Sister and her family lived within our house a few years back. We had no children, they had 2 with a third on the way. We went out of town for a weekend and came back at noon the following Monday. Sister was supposed to be at work, but wasn't. So and I were just stopping into the house to grab a couple things. Showed up to my niece and nephew asking for food, said they didn't get breakfast yet. I cut up some oranges and got then some oats while my husband grabbed what we stopped in for. Sister came out of her room, clearly just woken up for the day. I let her know I got the kids something to eat and then walked out the door. Everything seemed fine when we were all home that evening. The next morning my sister had written a letter and taped it to the box of oranges. We had agreed to split the cost of the box 50-50 when it was purchased. The note said things like, My kids had too many over the weekend and got stomach aches and I refused to pay for food. These and don't you dare feed my kids any food without asking our permission first. I had no idea her kids got sick from too many oranges. I wasn't there all weekend. I took a photo of the note. I grew up with her, she was sneaky growing up, thought she was past it, but just in case I wanted evidence. I apologized to her over text while we were both at work. When I got home she had taken the note off the box before her husband could see it. I sent him the picture I took of it. He was very upset with her. When all of the adults returned at the end of the day, my brother-in-law made my sister apologize to me and he paid me then and there for their share of the oranges. Then he told us how much he appreciated me for not letting her be sneaky and mean towards us. After all, we gave them a place to stay in our home. Brother-in-law was really good about it and he handled everything really well. It was so satisfying to finally prove the mean crap she has always pulled on me. Okay, sadly it is a very long story, so I'll cut to the appropriate part. In short, an entire ridiculous story culminated to a point where the person died. I'll call her little girl. She was a colleague when I was working at a fast food joint. She had issues, a lot of issues, abuse, both physical and sexual, and a lot of other stuff. I invested a lot of time and energy to help her, get to know her, cheer her and support her. I gave her a lot. But then I slowly realized she'd make up most things, and when I was 100% sure the stories were made up, I asked her to stop seeking attention through lies, as it was upsetting to others. She kept going, so I had to tell my superiors. Since then, she started spreading lies about me. It saddened me to see that other colleagues would believe her. She also stated that I was spreading lies about her and such. She managed to turn some colleagues against me. She had a form of brain cancer and her days were limited. She was suspended from work for a few days or weeks, can't remember the reason, but kept some people updated on her health. It was quickly deteriorating. One day I was with friend and got a call from a colleague. "I'm sorry to tell you this, Dr. Ziegler, but little girl died. Thanks for letting me know." I knew it was a lie. I knew she never had brain cancer. I remember seeing her read medical books. She was pretty clever, to learn the symptoms and such so she could fake them and fool some people. Still, I had to make sure. I called all 5 hospitals within reasonable distance of our city and acted as if I was terribly sad as I didn't have news from a dear friend that was hospitalized recently, so they actually searched her name to see if they had any match. 0 matches. No such person was admitted to any hospital in the past months. With that, I went from being 96% sure to 100%. I had her phone number, but of course she'd never answer. Instead, a friend of hers who was in on the whole thing would answer and tell people that it is true. She passed away _hours ago. She had heard my voice before, so she'd know it was me. So I asked my sister to call, pretending it was the job calling about an issue with a previous pay. We put my sister's phone on speaker while I recorded the whole thing on mine. My sister: "Hi, this is fake name from workplace. It seems there's an issue with a previous pay slip. Could I speak with little girl please?" Little girl takes the phone. My sister: "Hello, is this little girl?" Little girl: "Yes, that's me." I then replied: "Me, gotcha." She has a very distinct voice. She's pretty small and petite and her voice was very high-pitched and kinda whiny, so I quickly recognized it was her. I initially planned on revealing the whole thing to everyone, but at that point, I realized it was super pointless. Those that turned against me were just no friends to me anymore, so there'd be no reason to share that to them, and sooner than later the whole thing would be revealed. Eventually it was revealed, discovered. Plenty of people were sorry and asked for forgiveness, which I granted, but I never tried to salvage or work on the friendships I lost from those who turned against me. If you're dumb enough to believe those lies and not trust me, which you call your friend, there's too much of an issue. P.S. Yes, this is a very abridged version of the whole saga. So many lies and repercussions. Fake ape accusations, multiple issues at work, attempt to turn people against specific people, police implication and more. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Do you have a story about catching somebody in the act of lying? Let us know in the comments below.